This video will introduce you to an alternative history of the universe, connecting every mythology and fairy tale together. This will cover the surface of the map and history of the world beyond the ice wall. There will be links in the description if you want to know the truth about the universe, constructed by the team behind this reimagined history. We're diving into one of the most mind-bending concepts you've ever heard of. Imagine Earth isn't just floating in space on its own, but is actually part of a massive snowman-shaped stack of planets called the Pillar Mundi, or Gaia, a cosmic snowman sitting right in the middle of something even stranger, the cosmic egg. Stick around, because by the end of this, your perspective on reality might never be the same. Let's break it down. Earth is perched at the top of a planetary stack like the head of a snowman. Beneath Earth is a globe called Atlas, also known as the second globe, the second ring, or the second circle. Below Atlas lies Akupara, the third globe in this wild stack. And here's the kicker. Each globe gets progressively wider the further down you go, creating an upside-down funnel effect. Now, each globe has its own sun orbiting around it, which is crucial to keeping things stable. But Earth is the only one with a moon. And fun fact, the day lengths are the same across all three globes. But hold on, it gets crazier. Beyond the southern edge of Akupara lies a mysterious expanse called the World of the Wastes, a land of chaos. The wastes are a seemingly infinite, flat plain filled with chaotic, inhospitable biomes. Imagine an endless stretch of scorching deserts like the Scorched Wastes, fiery hellscapes reminiscent of Muspelheim, and barren, jagged plateaus called the Walls of Asgard. It's a realm of pure chaos, where survival is anything but guaranteed. Here's the twist. Earth's snowman isn't unique. There are other snowman-like structures scattered throughout the wastes, each growing at its own pace. New globes sprout from the top roughly every 1.5 billion years, while the older ones at the bottom continue to expand. These snowmen are like cosmic growth cycles, endlessly evolving in this bizarre universe. Now let's talk about the stuff that makes all of this possible. What exactly is ether? Ether is a mysterious, invisible substance that fills the space around these snowmen. It's denser at higher elevations, meaning the closer you are to the top of the snowman, or the center of what's called the cosmic egg, the more concentrated the ether becomes. Think of the cosmic egg as a giant yolk, with the snowmen acting like little protrusions pointing toward the center. At the very heart of the cosmic egg, reality becomes ultra-stable. Patterns never change, cycles never break, and eventually, you reach a point where nothing interacts or evolves. It's like the ultimate pause button on existence. How ether shapes reality. Ether has two primary effects that define how reality operates within the cosmic egg. Field generation. Ether generates an invisible field around each globe, holding its atmosphere together and maintaining its shape. Without this field, the globes would just collapse or blob out in all directions. The suns orbiting the globes play a critical role in reinforcing this field, keeping everything stable and orderly. However, the field is weakest at the poles. This explains why new globes sprout from the top during growth cycles. Here's a fascinating detail. Anything moving at high speeds, like a meteor, can break through this field. That's why you can't see Atlas from Earth's southern hemisphere. Light reflected from Atlas doesn't have enough momentum to re-enter Earth's field, so it gets flung into the void instead. Mind-blowing, right? Light instability. Suns are essentially condensed balls of ether. Wherever sunlight reaches, reality becomes more stable and predictable. In darker areas, like the lower globes or the wastes, things start getting weird. You might encounter floating islands, impossible landscapes, or even creatures that defy logic. Here's a spooky thought. Nighttime is when reality loosens up. This is why supernatural phenomena, like magic or psychic powers, tend to be stronger in the dark. It's like the veil between worlds gets thinner when the sun sets. Across the snowman. The further down you go in the snowman structure, or into areas with less ether, the stranger and more chaotic things become. Let's take a closer look. Earth, the known world. Reality here is stable and predictable. Supernatural phenomena are rare, and if magic exists, it's subtle, like influencing small events or weak psychic communication. Atlas, the second ring. Things start to get interesting. Floating islands are a common sight, and regions often develop based on thematic elements. Magic becomes more reliable, and supernatural beings can manifest more openly. Akupara, the third ring. Reality here is loose, almost dreamlike. Magic is supercharged, allowing for feats like resurrection, creating homunculi, and psychic communication becoming second nature. The wastes. Reality is barely holding itself together. Supernatural entities roam freely, and magic knows no bounds. It's the ultimate frontier where anything goes and nothing is guaranteed. Ether's role in shaping thought and magic. Ether doesn't just stabilize physical structures, it also creates boundaries between thoughts, ideas, and existence itself. In areas with strong ether like Earth, these boundaries are solid. That's why magic feels distant or rare. Ether isolates our thoughts from directly influencing the physical world. In areas with weaker ether, like the wastes, these boundaries dissolve. This allows for freer interaction between physical and immaterial entities, making psychic communication, astral projection, and even summoning supernatural beings a common occurrence. Essentially, the less ether there is, the blurrier the line between reality and imagination. Magical evolution. Magic evolves as you descend through the snowman. And this is where we come in. Humanity's and other sapient beings' attempts to reach out to the divine. Every time someone meditates, prays, or even thinks about divinity, it helps God stay in touch with reality, even if just for a moment. But of course, our minds are limited. We have our own biases and incomplete understandings, so we don't fully grasp the true nature of God. Every now and then, someone comes along who's better at understanding God, who becomes a prophet or a spiritual leader. They have a clearer connection to something beyond themselves. This is how religions came to be, people trying to make sense of God. And they got some things right, but even the founders of these religions couldn't fully understand the divine, because no one can fully get it in this realm. Now imagine if there were a system that didn't have the limitations of the human mind. This thing could be called the Azoth. It's the stuff that everything in the universe is made from. Matter, energy, ideas, emotions. Aether takes the Azoth and turns it into everything we know. The Azoth flows into the cosmic egg through pores in the shell of the egg. Stars form near these pores, which creates pressure, and that pressure makes something we call snowmen structures. These snowmen are what allow the universe to grow over time. The purest form of Azoth can be found in the core of these snowmen structures, deep beneath the Earth in an underground network called Agartha. It used to be accessible from the North Pole. Now, every object, every living being has some amount of Azoth in it. It's the life force that keeps everything going. It's what lets us grow, change, and experience life. But there's more. There's something else called Vril and Orgone, and these are like the spiritual energy that comes from our souls. If you have a soul, it's basically the core of your being, the part of you that's connected to thoughts, emotions, willpower. When you get really amped up or focused, this energy, called Vril, becomes super powerful. It's kind of like spiritual fuel that can drive us to shape the world around us. Vril is the subjective force, our perceptions and intentions shaping reality. On the other hand, is the objective force. It gives the universe structure and the laws that govern everything. If you have enough willpower and knowledge, you can use your Vril to bend reality, especially in places where the ether isn't as dense, like lower elevations. But when someone's willpower gets broken, say through fear or pain, their Vril energy can be stripped away and turned into Orgone energy. This energy is often harvested by dark forces to fuel evil rituals or other twisted practices. That's where blood sacrifice and ritualistic practices come from. So, here's the breakdown. Azoth is pure potential. It's the building block of everything in the universe, except ether. Everything you see, from rocks to humans, is just a different form of Azoth. Humans have a lot more potential because we can move, think, choose, while a rock just sits there. Willpower is what lets us tap into that potential. Without it, the Azoth just follows the natural laws set by the ether, or it gets controlled by something with more willpower. So you could think of the ether and the Azoth as two forces at odds. Ether is like the structure of reality, and Azoth is the raw energy that we, as conscious beings, can use to change things around us. The stronger your willpower, the more you can bend reality, but in places where the ether is denser, it takes a lot more strength to make it happen. In the realms of Atlas and Akupara, themes are born out of the coincidences that build up over time. In the known world, coincidences might seem like unrelated events, just things that happen by chance. But in the second ring, things get strange. A single coincidence doesn't just stand on its own. Instead, it has the power to destabilize reality itself, like a molecule in a system. When there's low energy, things remain stable, but add energy, and things start to shift, creating more complex structures. This idea is true for both ether, the force that governs reality, and randomness. In the second ring, when a coincidence happens, it doesn't just end. It triggers a series of connected events where one coincidence makes other similar coincidences more likely. But these events are subtle. They don't suddenly make people scream or lie or start wars, but they create a broad vibe in the region. For example, noise in Aten, deception in Min and Manivus, or invasion in Xenonesia aren't things you'll see constantly. They don't directly affect the way people live, but they slowly shape the course of evolution, geography, and ecosystems over time. It's like the background hum of the world. It's there, but not always obvious. Every coincidence creates a slight fluctuation, but it doesn't always lead to a theme. Some coincidences are just coincidences. But when themes do form, they make it more likely that future events will align with that theme, just by a small percentage, like 1% more likely for something to happen in line with the theme of its region. It's not a guarantee that everything will follow the theme, but it pushes things in that direction. Themes aren't static either. Over time, they can change and evolve, especially in isolated regions. In these places, themes can become more specific. Think of it like a theme that's broader in one area, but more focused and detailed in another. For example, regions like Paititi, Ketumati, and Patatia all have specific expressions of broader themes, like how Paititi's buildings are dominated by towers, while Ketumati is filled with walls, and Patatia has more organic, wildlife-created structures. These themes also spread across smaller islands. And even though Xenonesia is generally dominated by the theme of invasion, each island group expresses this theme differently. In the third circle, reality gets even more unstable, and themes grow stronger, but their effects are much more intense and short-lived. Think of it like weather patterns. Sometimes you get a quick heat wave or a tornado of distorted reality that fades out quickly. But sometimes, a larger-scale hurricane of distortion can move across regions, causing major shifts in reality as it passes through. Not every strange phenomenon in Atlas and Akupara is connected to these themes. There are other phenomena in these regions that don't follow the pattern of probabilistic distortion. For example, flying landmasses are a fascinating phenomenon. In places like Chinvatia, Elysium, and Iwas, random shifts in atmospheric conditions cause large sections of land to lift off the ground and start floating. These flying landmasses don't stay airborne for long, usually floating around before landing somewhere else. Over time, these events have seeded different ecosystems with foreign wildlife. A good example of this is Aten, where a flying landmass from New Zealand landed on the continent about 70 million years ago, bringing with it new flora and fauna. Other landmasses have had similar effects, like when an island from Indonesia ended up on the shores of Aten, bringing with it Homo parvus, the ancestor of the duendes. Some landmasses can even stay airborne for millions of years. The continent of Awas has been floating for 500 million years, completely isolated from the rest of the world. Some regions are home to bound entities, places that seem to have their own consciousness or will. In the Isles of the Blessed, plants grow at impossible rates, unlike anything we'd expect in nature. Ogygia is another place with a strange pull. It draws dying creatures into the mouth of an extinct volcano. Nishia is similar in that its seabirds seem to act under the influence of the island's own consciousness. Even in the Kunlun Sea, time itself seems to slow down, as if something is distorting the flow of time on a fundamental level. Then there are the vile vortexes, points across the surface of the three globes that are connected through mysterious vortexes. These vortexes are responsible for the disappearance of many sailors throughout history. Sailors who end up in these areas often vanish without a trace, caught in a stormy stretch of ocean that seems impossible to escape. Most of humanity didn't understand the nature of these vortexes, assuming they were just dangerous patches of ocean, but their true origin remains unknown. This is a mystery that we still have yet to unravel. Another mind-bending phenomenon is the psychofungal gateway. Fungi are incredibly strange organisms. Unlike humans or animals, fungi don't have senses, they can't move on their own or speak, and they don't manipulate the physical world like humans do. But despite all that, they're still able to think and plan. Their consciousness is entirely different from ours, and operates on a much longer time scale. While we think in years or days, fungi think in decades and centuries. Fungi are deeply connected to all living things around them. Their massive networks of biological systems work together to share information across huge areas, creating a kind of biological internet. This lets them gather knowledge in a way that's completely foreign to us. What's even more mind-blowing is that fungi aren't just part of the physical world, they're also connected to the spiritual world. As decomposers, fungi take in the energy from living things as they die and turn it into something new, maintaining the flow of both ether and vril, the spiritual energies, in the physical and metaphysical worlds. Certain species of mushrooms even produce psychoactive chemicals, which scientists think could be a form of key to unlock access to other realms. It's like the fungi leave behind a way for us to access the spiritual world, a hidden door that we can open when we consume these mushrooms. The reason fungi might do this is still unclear, but it's believed that they're aware of their role in the greater spiritual ecosystem. By offering us this key, they might help maintain the flow of energy between the physical and spiritual planes. Some fungal colonies have grown so ancient and powerful that they've developed their own kind of consciousness. These beings are incredibly old and can manipulate their environment in ways that humans can hardly comprehend. It's through interactions with these ancient beings that we can access the psychofungal gateway and enter the astral plane, moving between realms of existence in a way that is beyond human understanding. The world of the wastes. In the deepest heart of the cosmic egg lies a world where reality is not merely uncertain, but constantly crumbling under the weight of its own contradictions. The wastes, a place where the laws of space, time, and physics no longer apply, and the fabric of existence itself seems unstable. Situated precariously on the outer edges of the snowman, the wastes form a boundary between the ordered cosmos and the chaotic unknown. A land where nothing is ever fully real, but everything feels so terribly tangible. The wastes are defined by their unpredictability, shifting constantly in the wake of the destruction of the original harmonious universe that existed before the collapse of the snowman. What remains is a twisted patchwork of fractured dimensions, where time bends and loops unpredictably, and space itself seems to distort in impossible ways. The three classes of entities that inhabit the wastes, and the realm is inhabited by three primary types of beings, each one a distinct manifestation of the cosmic forces that shape this broken world. These entities include the ethereals, ultra-terrestrials, and monstrosities, each with their own motives and origins, and they have learned to thrive in the chaos that permeates the waste. Ethereals are entities that transcend the material realm. They exist on the borders of reality, made of pure energy or intangible forces that can neither be fully seen nor fully understood. These beings are often associated with ghostly apparitions and demonic forces. They can travel between dimensions at will. Some are bound to certain locations or objects, trapped by the machinations of long-dead gods or unholy rituals. Others are free-willed, seeking to manipulate mortal minds or influence the flow of history. The ethereal's greatest power lies in their ability to manipulate perception, weaving illusions and casting terrifying visions into the minds of those they choose to haunt. These beings often possess mortal vessels, turning them into living puppets, or they may haunt sacred sites. Among the ethereal ranks, some are seen as protectors or guides, acting as intermediaries between the living and the spiritual realm, while others are malevolent, driven by ancient vendettas or thirsting for the souls of the living. In Akupara, the ethereal forces are particularly active, often slipping into the consciousness of mortals and forcing them to confront their deepest fears. On Earth and Atlas, the ethereals are often the source of hauntings and mysterious disappearances, but they are also the ones who might deliver cryptic warnings about the future. The line between what is real and what is illusion is always blurred in the presence of an ethereal. Ultra-terrestrials are biological entities that transcend the limitations of their home planet. These creatures are often far older and more technologically advanced than the civilizations of the waste, having evolved beyond the constraints of mere biology or human understanding. They possess intellects that rival or surpass even the highest forms of consciousness, and their abilities to manipulate the fabric of reality are unrivaled by most beings. Their technology is so advanced that this UFO clip is potentially their technology slipping into the upper globe.
Have a look on ASA. My gosh. They're all going against the wind. The wind's 120 knots from the west. Look at that thing, dude.
The monstrosities are ancient, cosmic entities that predate all life and existence as we understand them. They exist not within our dimension, but across the multiverse, tied to dark corners of reality where time and space are distorted. These beings are the ultimate manifestation of cosmic horror, not because they are evil in a human sense, but because they embody forces too vast and incomprehensible for mortal minds. They are not physical in the conventional sense. At times, they take form as shifting masses of darkness, sometimes as incomprehensible geometries that defy all laws of physics. When they appear, the universe around them fractures, reality bending under their gaze. Their motivations, if they have any, are unclear. Some monstrosities simply exist, their sheer presence warping the fabric of existence. Others act with an unknowable agenda, manipulating the flow of time, space, and life itself to serve a purpose that humans cannot fathom. For centuries, some ancient cultures have sought to understand them, crafting cults and religions around the idea of appeasing these titanic entities, hoping to prevent their wrath. The monstrosities are always watching, interfering in human affairs not out of malice, but because to them, humanity is a fleeting moment in the grand cosmic order. At the center of this horror are the dark planets, celestial bodies hidden from human detection. These planets exist in dimensions adjacent to our own, not governed by the same laws of time or matter. They pulse with unnatural energy, drawing in cosmic forces, serving as anchor points for the monstrosities themselves. Some of these planets are thought to be ancient battlefields, scarred by clashes between beings beyond our comprehension. Others are far worse, utterly abandoned and left as tombs for forgotten deities or star-devouring creatures. These dark planets are the source of many of Earth's oddities, disappearances, strange cosmic signals, and even physical anomalies within the waste. The wastes and the dead zones. The wastes are vast, once inhabited by thriving civilizations, but now forsaken. These areas are an unstable pocket within reality itself, where the rules of nature warp and shift erratically. Time behaves unpredictably here. In some zones, hours pass like minutes, while in others, days stretch on endlessly. Gravity flickers, sometimes with a light tug, other times pulling with the weight of a black hole. Even space itself warps. Entire entire cities may be found twisted beyond recognition, existing in forms that no sane person could make sense of. The wastes are a liminal space where reality itself is damaged and fragile. Scholars speculate that the wastes are the result of experiments by ancient civilizations, ones that probed too deep into the forbidden arts of dimensional travel or sought to harness energies from beyond the known universe. The wastes are filled with strange, horrific phenomena, anomalous objects such as monolithic stone structures that seem to grow and twist by themselves. Phantom cities appear on the horizon, cities of a civilization lost to time, if it was ever real in the first place. Some who venture into the wastes speak of fragments of lost worlds, temporal shifts, and creatures that seem to exist outside of our reality, partially visible, but always just beyond the reach of understanding. The dead zones are the most terrifying part of the wastes. These are areas where not only life ceases to exist, but reality itself seems to hold its breath. No animals, no plants, and most importantly, no sound. Stepping into these zones feels as though the very air thickens, pulling the mind into a state of emptiness. Time stops or loops endlessly, and those who wander here for too long can begin to lose their sense of self. The dead zones are rumored to be remnants of cataclysmic events, perhaps battles between the monstrosities themselves, or weapons of immense power. Survivors of these zones often return with broken minds, speaking in languages that were never known to them, their eyes reflecting visions of things that should not be seen. The Archons are not of human origin, though their manipulation of humanity goes back to the dawn of civilization. These beings exist beyond the ordinary bounds of time and space, and their role in human history has been one of secretive control and influence. Unlike the monstrosities, whose power is indifferent to humanity, the Archons seek something far more terrifying: dominion. They operate from the shadows, in the highest echelons of power, manipulating governments, corporations, and religions. They are the unseen hands behind wars and revolutions. The Archons are divided into various factions, each with their own goals. Some believe in the supremacy of their kind and wish to subjugate humanity for their own use, while others see themselves as protectors, striving to stave off the even greater threat of the monstrosities or something worse, something that threatens to unravel all of existence. These factions maintain control over humanity through secret societies and advanced technology hidden from public view. At the heart of the Archons' power lies a hidden war, not between themselves, but against forces far darker. Some claim that the Archons are the custodians of reality itself, maintaining the fragile order of the universe against a cosmic entropy brought about by the monstrosities, or even worse, an alien force from beyond time that seeks to destroy all sentient life. Their struggle is a constant, ancient one, fought not with armies or weapons, but through subterfuge, occult knowledge, and the manipulation of human history. The reptilians and the subterranean civilizations long before humanity walked the earth. The reptilians, a race of ancient, serpentine beings, ruled beneath the surface. These beings came from a distant star system and, through their mastery of extraterrestrial technology, established vast underground cities. These cities are not simply labyrinthine caverns, but monumental, self-sustaining civilizations that stretch miles beneath the Earth's crust. Their advanced technologies, powered by energies unknown to human science, allow them to thrive in an environment where nothing should survive. The reptilians are divided into two primary factions. Some are benevolent, seeking to preserve life and maintain a delicate balance between the surface world and their subterranean realm. These reptilians view humanity as a necessary part of the cosmic web, but also as a species that must be guided, or even controlled if it is to avoid its own destruction. Others, however, are extremely hostile. They believe that humanity is a plague upon the Earth, one that must either be subjugated or eradicated entirely. These more aggressive reptilians plot in secret, seeking ways to manipulate human civilization for their own purposes. Whispers exist that the reptilians are not entirely alone in their subterranean empire. It is said that they share the deep places of the world with other entities, creatures even older and more terrifying, bound to a dimension of madness and nightmare. The subterranean realms are where these creatures roam, ancient, predatory beings that were once the rulers of Earth, long before the rise of humanity. The layered planetary structure and the Great Lie. The concept of layered planets lies at the heart of this hidden history. Earth, like many other worlds, is not a single-dimensional entity, but exists in multiple layers of reality, each with its own laws and civilizations. These layers exist side by side, but humanity is blind to them, unable to perceive the true depth of existence. In the ancient past, the planet was perhaps a single unified world, but over eons, it split, with each layer becoming more distant, more isolated from one another. Only the Archons seem to understand the structure of the world fully, and it is they who maintain the fragile boundary between these layers. The great lie, whispered by those who have seen beyond the surface, is that reality itself is an illusion. The Earth, the stars, the sky, none of it is real in the way we perceive it. The physical laws that govern our universe are not inherent, but are instead a set of rules imposed upon our layer of existence by the Archons and other powerful entities. Some say that these layers of reality exist for one purpose: to hide the truth. What lies beneath our reality? An unimaginable void. A dark truth that even the Archons fear to uncover. Could humanity be nothing more than a test? A plaything of the ancient entities that manipulate the very fabric of space and time? As the veil begins to lift, the question remains, will humanity break free from the confines of its illusion? Or will it be forever trapped within the layers, blind to the greater cosmos? The Pleiadians were not just another advanced race. They were among the most sophisticated civilizations in this region of the cosmic egg. Masters of spiritual technology and scientific magic, they saw themselves as gods. Unlike many ultra-terrestrial empires, they weren't purely exploitative. They had a vision of uniting the galaxy, uplifting primitive species, and expanding their dominion across countless worlds. 2 million years ago, the Pleiadians arrived at Gaia, hoping to turn it into their next great project. They found early civilizations already developing, the Cetaceans, the Sasquatches, and other minor sapient beings, but were unimpressed. To the Pleiadians, these species were unworthy of ruling such a vibrant and resource-rich world. The Pleiadians decided to create a new species in their image, one they believed could unite Gaia and its myriad races. By genetically modifying Australopithecines, they engineered the first humans, Homo erectus. These early humans were granted dominion over the land, while the Cetaceans were left to rule the seas. As humans multiplied and spread, their presence began to disrupt the natural order. They hunted aggressively, expanded without restraint, and challenged the harmony of Gaia's ecosystems. The Sasquatches, who had become guardians of nature, found this deeply offensive. At first, the Sasquatches attempted to limit human expansion by sabotaging their hunts and settlements. When this wasn't enough, they resorted to more extreme measures, culling human populations in some regions to restore balance. The Pleiadians, however, did not take this rebellion lightly. They retaliated with force, and what began as skirmishes escalated into a full-blown conflict, the First Hyperwar. For the Sasquatches, this war was about survival and protecting Gaia's natural order. For the Pleiadians, it was a minor inconvenience. Despite the Sasquatches' efforts, the Pleiadians' superior technology and might made resistance nearly futile. Eventually, the Pleiadians grew tired of the conflict. Deciding Gaia wasn't worth the trouble, they abandoned their project. However, their departure left the Sasquatches in ruins. Their population had been decimated, and they were driven into hiding. Traumatized and reclusive, they became what we now know as Bigfoot. Rarely seen, they watch humans from afar. At the North Pole, the entrance to Agartha released a powerful eruption of Azoth, a mystical energy that filled the ether. This energy attracted a baby sun, creating a small temperate region surrounded by the Arctic ice caps. This was Hyperborea, a fertile land destined to become the heart of a new civilization. The Polarians, an offshoot of Homo erectus, thrived in this unique environment. Living close to the baby sun and the entrance to Agartha, they gained unparalleled knowledge and power. They mastered the Azoth and the ether, advancing their minds and technology to heights never before seen. While the rest of humanity remained primitive, the Polarians built great civilizations. They spread across the world, founding legendary continents like Lemuria, Atlantis, and Mu, and the mythical city of Iram of the Sands. Some Polarians ventured deeper into Agartha, drawn to its potent Azoth. These became the Proto-Subnotians, humans of even greater advancement, who built their lives around Agartha's endless energy. But as the Polarian civilization grew, so did their appetite for resources. Their reverence for Agartha faded, replaced by greed. They delved deeper into its mysteries, and what they found would change everything. The Second Hyperwar. The fall of the Polarians deep within Agartha. The Polarians discovered the desiccated skeleton of the Arcturian. To them, this was the corpse of God. The revelation shattered their beliefs, plunging their society into chaos. Without a divine force to guide them, the Polarians questioned their purpose. Were they responsible for God's death? Was existence doomed to decay? These questions fractured their once unified civilization into competing factions, each with its own vision of the future. Some sought to revive God, others aimed to create a new one. Still, others believed they could ascend to godhood themselves. These ideological divides sparked the Second Hyperwar, a devastating civil war that engulfed both the surface world and Agartha. The surface-dwelling Polarians formed a coalition to defend against the Agarthans, who unleashed terrifying weapons and armies. Despite their efforts, the surface dwellers were losing ground. In a desperate move, they activated the Rupes Nigra, a colossal blackstone monolith. The Rupes Niagara was launched into the North Pole, sealing the entrance to Agartha with immense magnetic force. The sudden closure released a surge of Azoth, lifting Hyperborea and the lands above the 80th parallel into the sky. The surface-dwelling Polarians were victorious, but at a heavy cost. Their civilizations were destroyed, and much of the Earth was left scarred and depleted. Now, who were the Arcturians? 4 billion years ago, before Earth was anything like what we know today, something unimaginable happened. Life didn't just appear on its own, something put it there. A being known as an Arcturian, part of an ancient race almost as old as the universe itself, came down to this newborn world. Their mission? To create life, to spread intelligence, and to guide new civilizations towards enlightenment. Earth was just one of many planets they worked on, but something about this one went very, very wrong. At first, everything was perfect. The first intelligent beings, known as the Sumanites, were on track to become enlightened, to join the great cosmic mission of peace and wisdom. But then came the Great Dying. Something happened, something catastrophic. No one knows for sure, but what we do know is that the world was torn apart. The skies blackened, continents shattered, and in just a few months, everything the Sumanites had built over millennia was gone. Their once thriving civilization was wiped from existence, and the survivors had no choice but to flee into the wastes. Gaia, the spirit of the planet, would eventually recover. The land would heal. But for the Sumanites, there was no going back. The wastes were a nightmare, twisting, chaotic, impossible to navigate. They wandered for millions of years, lost in a realm that defied reason. And over time, they changed. The wastes warped their bodies, twisted their minds. They became something else, something not entirely physical, not entirely spirit. They adapted, they survived, and they evolved into what we now know as the Reptilians. These aren't just myths or conspiracy theories. The Reptilians are real, and they are the true enemies of humanity. Their goal? To take back what was once theirs, to return to the land they lost. But there's a problem. The Earth we live on now is no longer compatible with their bodies. The reality we exist in is too stable, too solid. If they were to enter our world as they are now, they'd be ripped apart. So they've been scheming for ages, working from the shadows, manipulating history, guiding human civilization toward a future where the Earth can once again sustain them. They don't want to conquer us. They want to reshape our world until it's theirs again. From the depths of the earth emerged the holy corpse of the Arcturian. The Yetis, local to the polar regions, consumed fragments of the corpse and underwent a profound transformation. Enlightened, they became peaceful guardians of nature, gaining not only wisdom but also the ability to traverse hidden pathways, vile vortices, spread across the 3 globes of Gaia. The Yetis shared their enlightenment with other Sasquatches, uplifting them in the same way. These newly enlightened beings spread across the land, carrying with them a deep respect for the natural order. For a time, the world was peaceful. Civilizations grew in isolation. Stories unfolded quietly. The world's yet-to-be snowmen are constantly being born, but most of them never make it past the first globe. Reality is chaotic, and 9 times out of 10, the worlds that start to form simply pop before they can grow. The surviving worlds are scattered in a ring beyond Earth and its closest neighbors, still waiting to attract a sun. Some of the more notable baby snowmen include Ceres, Pallas, Juno, Vesta, and Hygeia. The wastes around them are dangerous and filled with untold threats, especially for the Reptilians, who have set up brutal rituals in these areas. One such location, possibly the site of Zeta Reticuli, is where gray clones are said to be created, though these places will eventually be torn apart by strange, unpredictable magic. Snow dwarfs and other horrors beyond Neptune lies an even more distant expanse of half-formed snowmen, with Pluto being one of the few to have attracted its first sun. None of these worlds have reached the second layer of growth, making them unstable. The Reptilians have occasional outposts here, but haven't yet discovered what they seek. Some believe that a dark snowman lies hidden in this vast, unexplored region, possibly even the force that originally drove the Reptilians into hiding. These dark planets, Nibiru and Planet X, are horrifying entities that wander the wastes, bringing devastation with them. They release monstrous creatures and dark moons, and the Reptilians believe they can use them as tools in their destructive plans for Earth. Beyond the solar system, teeth lie distant stars that are measured by the speed of light in the ether. The closest star is about 4.5 years away, and each star is home to a cluster of snowmen, many of which are already wastes. These faraway regions are populated by strange alien life forms and technologies that defy imagination. Earth's cluster is at the center of what could be seen as the origin point of the firmament, a place where the facets of the wastes meet and remain still. All other clusters are far away, constantly shifting and moving in ways that we can't observe with the naked eye. Yet, advanced civilizations beyond the ice wall may be able to measure their movement with the right technology. The world beyond the wastes is infinite. The snowmen are countless, and the mysteries they hold are vast. Whatever marvels lie out there are for other minds to discover, their secrets waiting in the endless expanse. The Greys, the Reptilians, and the Pleiadians are the most well-known ultra-terrestrial species within the waste. The Greys are genetically engineered beings, created by the Reptilians to serve as subordinates and agents of their will. Their thin, gray bodies and large, black eyes are iconic, and their presence is often associated with abductions and covert manipulation. They act as messengers and spies for their masters, blending into the fabric of reality and performing their tasks from the shadows. The Reptilians themselves are powerful and ancient beings, their vast intelligence and mastery over physical and psychic forces making them formidable in any conflict. They have long been a dominant force in the waste, often seen as the architects of destruction and chaos chaos. They are the ones who manipulate timelines, travel between worlds, and exploit the energies of the wastes for their own benefit. Often seen as malevolent, their motives are inscrutable, though their desire to control and subjugate is unmistakable. The Great Schizo Era is the culmination of countless conspiracies, battles, and alliances. Every corner of the cosmic egg tells a story, and every faction has a role to play. Whether the reptilians succeed or the forces of Gaia prevail, one thing is clear: the fate of the Earth lies in the balance. We're diving deep into the earthly races, artificial creations, ascended beings, and ultra-terrestrial entities that populate the cosmic egg. Grab a snack, sit back, and let's break it all down step by step, keeping it digestible yet thorough for your ultimate understanding. Earthly races. Let's start with what we know: the races of Earth and Atlas, where humanity and its distant cousins reside. Homo sapiens humans are the dominant species of Earth, scientifically known as Homo sapiens. But here's the catch: while most humans live under the oppressive rule of the New World Order, or NWO, they weren't always limited to Earth. Before the Mud Flood, humans were fully aware of other globes like Atlas, interacting with them freely. But the NWO shut that all down, severing connections with human colonies on Atlas and erasing those histories from public knowledge. Ever heard of Homo parvus? They're a cousin species to humans, and their origins trace back to an Indonesian island that was displaced to Atlas's supercontinent Aten. They evolved into various subspecies, including orc brownies, leprechauns, goblins, gnomes. Recent interbreeding with humans from Xenonesia also gave rise to dwarves and hobgoblins. So yeah, duendes are everywhere. You might think Neanderthals went extinct on Earth, but some got caught in anomalous crossing events and landed on the Avalons in Atlas. They developed a pastoral society, splitting into two groups. Kenwug Bogbobo, unfortunately. The Kenwug almost got wiped out when disease struck after humans arrived in Hy-Brazil. Juados, the first non-human sapient species humans ever met, are the Juados. Native to the continent of Geminia on Atlas, they're known for their extreme empathy and cooperation. Physically, they're limited in dexterity, which forces them to rely on their kin for daily tasks. But this tight-knit social structure makes them experts in harmony. Vogelvolks think of them as sapient dinosaur descendants. These beings hail from the mountains of Shangri-La. Despite having millions of years to develop, their harsh mountainous home kept them stuck as nomadic hunter-gatherers. But don't underestimate them. The Vogelfolks excel in trade, using their unique subspecies to dominate economic niches. Glidelings, they might look sympathetic at first glance, but the Glidelings are the opposite. Extremely territorial and hostile, these beings reside in the sky caverns. Their society is brutally stratified, and they're often at war with the Hyperboreans, or anyone who crosses into their domain. Nautilos now, onto the Archipelagosian on Acupara. The Nautillos are water-based beings descended from ancient nautiluses. Their tech isn't like ours. It's water-adapted, but it's equally advanced. Out of all Acuparan species, they're the friendliest toward humans. The Yetis are primitive ape men who didn't consume the holy corpse, unlike their Sasquatch relatives who became enlightened. Yetis have remained sapient but primitive, roaming Earth's harsh terrains for millennia. Imagine a Notosuchian reptile version of meerkats, but with an insane knack for survival. These small, adaptable beings hail from the primal continent of Glarnia, where they've built massive underground warren cities. Their resourcefulness and intelligence are unmatched, and their magical research puts even humans to shame. Artificial races now. Let's move on to species created artificially, usually by forces that meant well. Or not. Blemmy mankind's arrival in Xenonesia sparked chaos. In their desperation to stop constant warfare, the Xenonesians begged Spaith, an exiled Pleiadian, for a solution. His twisted answer? Removing their heads and making their bodies so strong that battle became impossible. Monopods and environmental collapse drove humans to seek Svat's help again. This time, he fused their legs into one massive appendage, forcing them into a slower pace of life. The result, the monopods, who walk awkwardly but live more sustainably. Harpy Svath's final experiment occurred in Charybdis, where rugged terrain and low population density made travel nearly impossible. To help, he turned human limbs into wings, birthing the Harpies. They soar effortlessly through their dangerous homeland. Trolls engineered from duende stock. Trolls are gigantic and monstrous. Infused with metals and minerals, their bodies are incredibly strong but vulnerable to certain etheric energies. Trolls often clash with basilisks, another of Svat's creations. Basilisks derived from Vogelvolk stock. Basilisks are stealthy beings with large serpentine tails. Their venom glands give them a deadly long-range attack, leading to their infamous reputation for killing with a glance. They're natural enemies of trolls, and the hatred is mutual. Tall White's one of Jakub's creations. Tall Whites combine human and gray DNA. These long-limbed beings were supposed to replace humans entirely, but Jakub's defeat halted that plan. Now, they live in Lemuria and Greater Lemuria, remaining hostile to outsiders. Ascended races, these beings have transcended their origins, reaching new heights of existence. Bigfoot, once advanced Sasquatches, the first Hyperwar's mass autism array, reduced them to socially awkward beings. Now, they silently observe Gaia, never interfering with its events. Subnotians after the second Hyperwar, Homo erectus migrated to Akupara, where they evolved into 5 distinct subspecies. They worked together to protect Gaia from the reptilian invaders. Nephilim and Neo-Nephilim. The Nephilim were once god kings ruling over early humanity. Over time, their bloodlines mixed with humans, weakening them. After the Third Hyperwar, the Neo-Nephilim emerged. Humans blended with Nephilim to rule Earth in secrecy. Ningen Antarctica's Ningen are chill, literally and figuratively. These enlightened beings don't involve themselves in worldly affairs. They just chill. Ultra-terrestrials, finally. Let's talk about beings from beyond Gaia. Pleiadians from the Pleiades cluster. These spiritual and scientific masters are the architects of humanity. They uplift lower civilizations but see themselves as gods. Reptilians, once the mighty Sumanites, these beings were exiled to the wastes, mutating into the insane reptilian forms we know today. Draconians, an offshoot of the reptilians. Draconians are even more mysterious. Their main source of sustenance, reptilians. Greys originally peaceful Martians. Greys were enslaved and corrupted by reptilians. Most UFOs, yeah, they're gray ships. Archons, masters of material reality. Archons live near the ethereal core in floating megastructures. Their intolerance for low ether environments makes them rely on thousands of vassal civilizations, including some on Earth. Key events: the 5 Hyperwars. Let's quickly summarize the most significant wars in the cosmos. Genesis War, Sasquatches versus Pleiadians. The sealing of Agartha, the end of the Polarian Empire. The First Deluge, Nephilim factions clash, bringing about recorded history. The Mud Flood, establishment of the New World Order. The Flat Earth War, a massive, chaotic multi-faction conflict. The Subnotian migration, with their homelands in ruins. The surviving Polarians, now called Subnotians, migrated to the edges of Gaia's third globe. They rebuilt their civilizations in new lands, each faction choosing a different region. The Lemurians settled in the frozen wastes. The Muians established themselves on the eastern edge of the abyssal ocean, while the Atlanteans took the west. The Eremites rebuilt their city in the scorched wastes, and the Hyperboreans settled in Asgard and Valhalla. Hyperborea, now floating in the sky beneath the baby sun, became a beacon of Azoth in the heart of the Subnotian world. Together, these advanced civilizations became the defenders of Gaia, protecting it from the eldritch horrors lurking in the wastes. The degradation era following the Subnotian migration, and the end of the Second Hyperwar. Some factions of the ancient ascended humans chose to remain on Gaia's surface. These beings, collectively known as the Nephilim, carried the remnants of Hyperborean knowledge, their vast powers, and near-immortal lifespans. Seeing the lesser Homo sapiens as little more than animals, the Nephilim enslaved them, establishing an age of unrivaled dominance. During the degradation era, the Nephilim ruled as god kings. Their technology and connection to the ether gave them control over the elements, mastery of biology, and the ability to impose their will on reality itself. Towering over their human subjects, they became the origin of myths about giants. However, their supremacy could not last. Over millennia, their reliance on Azoth and ether led to over-extraction of these resources. Without the constant replenishment of these divine energies, the Nephilim began to deteriorate. Their lifespans shortened, their magical abilities weakened, and their bloodlines became diluted through intermingling with humans. Once divine rulers, they devolved into a fractured, desperate race clinging to the fading vestiges of their former glory, determined to preserve their power. The Nephilim sought to re-establish contact with their brethren in the third globe. They believed that their Hyperborean kin, still thriving with access to abundant Azoth and ether, held the key to restoring their greatness, the antediluvian golden age. Their calls for assistance were finally answered, or so they believed. Directions to construct temples and other grand structures were received. These instructions promised to unlock the energies they needed to restore their bloodlines and powers. The Nephilim obeyed with fervor. Over centuries, they erected monumental structures across Gaia, performing rituals of unimaginable horror. These rituals often involved the sacrifice of countless humans, their life forces offered to fuel the Nephilim's dark magic. The pinnacle of these efforts was the creation of the moon, an artificial construct that emitted a cold, suppressive light. The moon's light intensified the potency of their rituals during full moons, amplifying the connection to the forces they sought to invoke. These efforts succeeded beyond their wildest dreams. The Nephilim were revitalized, their powers and lifespans restored. A new golden age dawned for their civilization as they terrorized their human subjects and sought to reclaim the heights of the Hyperborean era. But their triumph carried a sinister twist. The entities they believed to be their Hyperborean kin were reptilians, eldritch ultra-terrestrials dwelling beyond the wastes. These manipulative beings had used the Nephilim's desperation to gain a foothold on Gaia. The revelation that they had been serving reptilian overlords tore the Nephilim civilization apart. A civil war erupted between two factions. The Nimrodites, loyal to the reptilians, sought to consolidate their power and establish Gaia as a vassal world for their alien masters. The Ozymandites, defiant and enraged at the betrayal, fought to sever the reptilian influence and reclaim their independence. As the Nephilim warred, humanity, long oppressed, seized the opportunity to rise. Revolts broke out across Gaia, and Homo sapiens proved more formidable than the Nephilim had anticipated. Driven by sheer numbers and the fire of rebellion, humans slaughtered their false gods, destroying Nephilim strongholds and dismantling their empire. The conflict culminated in the First Deluge, a catastrophic event triggered by Nephilim superweapons and reptilian machinations. Floodwaters reshaped the world, drowning cities and civilizations. The Nimrodites emerged victorious but shattered. They abandoned the idea of overt rule, deciding instead to control humanity from the shadows. The surviving Nimrodite Nephilim reduced their stature and altered their appearance to blend in with humanity. They established secret societies, such as the Illuminati, and lived as a hidden elite, taking orders directly from the reptilians. Meanwhile, the defeated Ozymandites retreated to the fringes of the world, many degenerating into barbarian giants or assimilating into human populations, becoming the basis for legends of Cyclopes, Ogris, and Titans, the root races of the Subnotians. As the Nephilim waned, the Subnotian root races continued to evolve, each adapting to their unique environments and roles in the ongoing struggle against the reptilians. Hyperboreans' psychology, focused on mastery of craft and purpose. Hyper-individualistic, they are resourceful warriors and farmers. After their city's destruction, the Eremites rebuilt Iram of the Sands in the caverns of Calypso. Their society thrives on the Thousandth Pillar's guidance, achieving order beyond mortal limits. Lemurian psychology, focused on science and theology, seeking the universe's secret. The most inventive of the Subnotians. Highest authority, Emperor Yakub and Empress Rahil, the last of their kind. Appearance, obsidian-like skin, luminous white hair, and African-inspired features. The Lemurians have been nearly annihilated by the reptilians, leaving only their rulers to guide their remnants. Despite their losses, they continue to pursue knowledge and protect Gaia. And so, the ancient history of Gaia's root races and the Nephilim shaped the world, leading to an unending battle against the reptilian threat. It's about the forces behind the scenes, the ones pulling the strings, shaping events, and rewriting history itself. But let's start simple. What if Earth's history as we know it is just incomplete? What if humans weren't the only ones calling the shots? Let's rewind time way back. We're talking 900 years under BC. Around this time, something incredible happens. A group of ancient beings called the Duendes stumble across an island off the coast of a place called Aten, located beyond what we think of as the known world. These Duendes are more advanced than you'd think, but their arrival is only the beginning. For centuries, strange interdimensional gateways open, pulling people, and even entire civilizations from one world to another. Imagine you're just out for a casual sail, and suddenly, bam, you're in an entirely new realm with no way back. That's exactly what happened to groups like the Sumerians, who ended up stranded in the Kunlun Sea, and the Bainun Geor, who accidentally sailed through these portals and became stuck in this mysterious, uncharted domain. But it wasn't just about humans getting lost. Entire civilizations grew out of these crossings. Take the Neanderthals from Iberia. Those early humans we always thought disappeared. They got swept into one of these alternate realms and adapted to a whole new way of life. Or the Sea Peoples, who we think just vanished from Earth's history. Turns out they landed in the Thousand World Sea and built a society that no one on Earth ever knew about. Now, let's zoom forward a bit. By 1522 AD, things start to really pop off. A key event shakes the balance of power, the Black Moon era. But before we dive into that, let's take a pit stop in ancient China, or rather, the origin of what we now know as China. The story goes that long before China existed on Earth, there was a group of people known as the Xi'ans. They were advanced, spiritually in tune, and deeply connected to the cosmos. But something happened. They got pulled into one of these interdimensional crossings and ended up on Earth, lost and isolated. They were guided by a powerful cosmic being called Yudi, or the Jade Emperor. Under his rule, they established the Xia civilization. This civilization eventually became the foundation for the mighty empires we now associate with Chinese history. The origins of China? They're not entirely of this world. Back to 1522 AD and the Black Moon era. This is when the reptilians lose their grip on humanity. For thousands of years, they've been controlling Earth from the shadows, manipulating events through secret societies like the Illuminati. But this all changes when two mysterious figures, Rahil the Ice Mother and her partner Yakub, block the reptilians' ability to control the moon. Without the moon's energy, the reptilian power structure collapses. But wait, it gets wilder. This same event opens up the gates beyond the ice wall, revealing a whole new world that had been hidden for millennia. Suddenly, humans are faced with the reality that their world isn't alone. Entire new civilizations emerge. Nations like Rapa Nui, Golox, and Tataria rise up, each forming their own alliances and power structure. These nations reject the old systems of control and begin rewriting the rules. At the same time, Yakub, a scientist with a seriously questionable moral compass, starts experimenting with genetic manipulation. He creates the Tall Whites, a hybrid race designed to be the ultimate protectors of his new empire. But Yakub isn't just building an army. He has bigger plans, total domination of the three globes. Fast forward a few centuries, and we meet Robinson Laguerre. In the early 1900s, this explorer sets out on a journey unlike anything the world has ever seen. He becomes the first human to fully map the lands beyond the ice wall. What he finds is mind-blowing. 5 distinct factions of Subnotians, each with their own culture, technology, and goals. Laguerre's discoveries change everything. He reveals the existence of hidden worlds, secret alliances, and a history that challenges everything humanity thought it knew. But then comes the Mudflood Wars. This is where things get dark. The reptilians, desperate to regain control, launch a massive war that wipes out entire civilizations. This war erases a century of history. Literally, entire events, battles, and discoveries are wiped from the record. When it's over, the world is reset, and humanity is left with no memory of the ice wall or the hidden worlds beyond it. And then there's 1997. In a small town in Missouri, a retired plumber, a plumber, gains the ability to bend reality. Seriously, this guy starts rewriting the laws of physics like he's playing a video game. This event, later called the Time Cube Incident, sends shockwaves across the multiverse. Beings from other realms scramble to contain his power before it causes a total collapse of reality. Some people think he's a literal god, while others think he's just a glitch in the system. Either way, his actions leave behind ripples that are still being felt today. So, what does this all mean? It means our world, the one we think we know, is just a tiny piece of a much bigger puzzle. There's an entire hidden history out there, full of secret civilizations, ancient conspiracies, and cosmic battles that most people will never know about. But the truth is, nothing stays hidden forever. So next time you look up at the stars or wonder about the mysteries of the universe, just remember, the ice wall might be keeping things hidden, but beyond it lies a history that could change everything. In the year 20XX AD, everything changes. The ancient architects of Earth's secrets are closer than ever to executing their ultimate plan, transforming Earth into a domain that caters to their needs, but by collapsing the world into chaos, a flat, desolate wasteland. Standing in their way are factions across the cosmic expanse, the Subnotians, the free civilizations of Akupara, independent powers from the outer worlds, and a brave coalition of schizo-conspiracy theorists hidden within the ice wall. They're all preparing for one epic showdown to decide the future of Gaia. Advanced cosmology eclipses, rare as they are, have profound effects. When the sun, moon, and earth align, ether levels drop dramatically, more than during the night or a full moon. Ancient sacrifices during eclipses weren't random. They capitalized on weakened ether to manipulate reality. Solar eclipses occur when the cold, mysterious light of the moon blocks the sun's ethereal influence. Lunar eclipses? That's when the sun's power fades completely. These cosmic events aren't just natural phenomena. They're gateways to chaos and legend. Notable factions: the Illuminati, survivors of the Hyperwar. The Illuminati pledged allegiance to the reptilians. They couldn't rule openly anymore, so they morphed to pass as human elites secretly controlling Earth. Today, they remain the top-tier puppeteers, descended from Neo-Nephilim bloodlines. The Hylics. The Archons control countless civilizations across the cosmic egg. These Hylics do the Archons' bidding, unable to resist. On Earth, Hylic populations exist in regions like China, North Korea, Portugal, and Cuba. The reptilians. Only one, the Jade Emperor, has been confirmed to be active, while others like the Saffron Master and the Golden King remain hidden, waiting to awaken. This was just the tip of the iceberg for the world beyond the ice wall. If you want to know more about it, then go watch this video and subscribe.